at CKLU, about the only thing you can bank on is knowing that you're going to hear something new, original, and super fantastic. Your community and college radio station, 96.7 FM, Sudbury.
Welcome everyone back to the Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM. I'm your host Bob Kirwan, and as I mentioned this afternoon we have Jeff MacIntyre in the studio. Jeff is going to be talking to us about downtown Sudbury and a whole bunch of other things that are, I guess, generating a lot of interest in the community during election year. Jeff, welcome to CKLU.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's rushed. We just brought him in, sat him down, and here we go. Jeff, the downtown core of Sudbury, and I mean, when you go to the downtown Sudbury website, it's amazing. It's got, like, it's a very well developed site. You're the chair of the board, or the chair of the committee?
Chair of the board.
Okay. Can you tell us what downtown Sudbury is all about? Because there are some myths. I know I live in the valley and in Ward 5, and it just seems like all you're hearing about is downtown Sudbury, but I think some people get the misconception that it's the city council that's promoting downtown Sudbury, but it's not really that way, is it?
No, downtown Sudbury is actually, it's a BIA, which is a Business Improvement Association.
And it's not the only one in Sudbury, right?
There's two in Sudbury. It's actually a mandate of the provincial government that made BIAs possible. And it started in, I think, York Street, Toronto. And what happened was a bunch of members got together and said, we want our area to look a little nicer than it does currently.
Okay.
So can we get some kind of mechanism where we can group together and fund it ourselves to make our area nicer? The Ontario government thought it was a great idea and put in a process where the BIAs can have a levy, so we can charge our members a certain amount to be in that area.
Okay.
So the municipality collects that money for us, distributes it back to the BIA, and then we have money to improve our streetlights, put on festivals, better signage, planters, all of those kind of nice things that you hear happening downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually paid for by the members of the BIA.
So I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions is that a lot of the people feel that it's their tax dollars that are paying for the development of downtown, but it's not, is it?
Well,
I shouldn't say
there's
it's
some
not,
tax dollars that are going to go towards it.
It's like anywhere else.
Yeah, but if you look at prior to amalgamation, streetlights, for example, we were paying a 30% premium to get slightly nicer streetlights.
Okay.
Now we pay 50.
Okay.
So, you know,
So you can have the standard or you can pay extra.
yeah, so we're actually paying more since amalgamation.
Okay. So tell us about the group. It's a pretty expansive group, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely every taxpayer downtown, within the boundaries of Paris Street, the tracks, and St. Anne's Road.
Okay. And that's from your website. It's like 90 property owners and something like over 400 businesses.
Yeah, which has grown slightly since I think that number. We've had a lot of businesses move downtown in the last little while.
Okay. And the businesses that set up in downtown, that's one of the requirements. They can't opt out of this.
No, when you form a BIA, you need 70% approval to form it, and then we decide a levy. So this year, I think it was about 450,000 was the total levy. So all of those property owners pay into that levy as part of their municipal taxes. So it's above and beyond what you would generally pay for your municipal taxes. You pay into this BIA levy.
Okay. It's almost like a business organization, or it's not quite like a chamber of commerce because I guess you're more into a marketing role, right?
We do a lot of marketing. We do a lot of events. We advocate quite a bit. So one of the reasons you see downtown in the newspaper more than other areas is there's a group that is defined that does that.
Okay. Despite the fact that there is a downtown Sudbury organization and you've got the BIA, there seems to be this push for a a strong downtown. And it's not just a marketing promotion by the
Yeah.
Downtown Sudbury Group. There's I guess there's a feeling out there that in any city, your downtown core should be kind of special. Can you give us some of your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
There-
As chair, I'm sure you have
Yeah.
some thoughts.
So there's a few reasons for that. One, a strong downtown is just great economic sense. The infrastructure cost, the service cost, all of that is much lower in downtown because of the density of it. So a strong downtown generates more money than it takes. So if you have a strong downtown, you're helping to pay for busing, roads, policing, the rest of the community. The second reason for it is when people come to your city, more often than not, a tourist will come to your downtown first. This day and age, the reason for it is if you go to a mall, you're going to the same mall in the community that you're from. They have the same stores, same line of clothing, same everything. You come to downtown Sudbury right now, you go to one of the restaurants, you're getting unique food that you'll get nowhere else in the province because it's a local restaurant, the only place doing it. You go to Artis on Elgin, same thing. You're not gonna get those products anywhere else in the world, right? It's a local artist doing that kind of stuff. And that's really become what downtowns are. They become really strong on the local piece and on the uniqueness factor. Now on top of that, we've seen a lot of white collar move downtown. And a lot of that white collar wanted to move downtown because their employees demanded it. They said, we wanna go out for lunch, we want good selection, we wanna be able to walk to lunch, we wanna be able to do these kind of things. So we've seen a lot of businesses look at the downtown and make a decision whether they're gonna locate in Sudbury or not. If you have a strong downtown, that white collar workforce that's tied to everything from mining, supply, financial, one of the ways they decide where they're gonna move is what the strengths of that downtown core is and how likely they're gonna be able to get the best and brightest to move to that city. If you're a top-end employee, you have the choice to work anywhere in the country. No employer is gonna tell you you have to work here because you can work remotely fairly easy at this point. And if you're that top level, you need a city that can attract those people. Without a strong downtown, you're not attracting those people.
And I guess when you take a look at the strong downtown, it's generally the outlying areas that I guess paint the complete picture of the Sudbury area. So
Yeah.
you can't, so I guess you're not looking at the downtown as an island. You're looking at it almost like a heart that leads out to the rest of the community of communities that create Sudbury.
Well, exactly, right? And I think a strong downtown in Caperhill and a strong downtown in the valley, those are different we all need to recognize the downtown is not the retail hub of any city anymore. It's just not true. You even go to Toronto and, it's the suburbs that have the big malls.
Yeah.
Downtown Toronto is a lot of unique places and it's got one Eaton Center. And even there, that's hollowed out a fair bit in the last little while.
Yeah. Sears is really taking a chunk out of that property.
Mid-end retailers everywhere are, having a hard time. So, you're getting these kind of top-end local stores that are doing fairly well these days, and you're getting the Walmarts, Targets, big box, heavy discount retailers. And that mid-size is getting hollowed out significantly.
The whole year-long schedule, like for downtown Sudbury, you've announced a rebranding campaign. I think it was around the end of February, right?
Yeah.
And can you give us a little bit of background on what this rebranding is all about? The word branding seemed to get a sour note when we got into branding
Yeah.
Sudbury, but I think rebranding downtown, give us a little bit of background on what it is that you're trying to.
So our old brand was Live Workshop, and
Live
Workshop downtown. And the problem with it was that it wasn't really telling the story. The shop was a big emphasis on it, and shopping just isn't the strength in downtowns that it used to be. It's really more about a lifestyle and about niche retail and hospitality. So it was really a lot more of the live kind of piece of it, and the live didn't really tell the story correctly. So we needed a brand that was better at communicating the message of what a downtown is today. So we've gone with this downtown as a place for you. And a big piece of it is this push pin that's the new logo. And we're gonna be identifying different sectors through different colors of push pin throughout the downtown. So that when you come, a specific color will identify hospitality, specific color will identify kind of high-end retail, and we'll be able to tell that story and point to the successes that downtown has by saying, look at the 70 restaurants that we have downtown that are absolutely unique, that are owner-operated, phenomenal chefs, can put together, you know, menus and chef's tables and do stuff that's unique that you can't experience at any chain across the city.
Interesting. And the, I guess the direction for this rebranding is done through your staff, like Maureen Luome has been
Yeah.
around for a long time.
Several years, yeah.
Several years,
Yeah.
And do you have a very big staff that?
We've got a staff of 3 now. We just brought in, we're 2 for quite some time. We just brought somebody in new that's doing more of the marketing end of it. Marketing's changed drastically in the last 10 years.
Yes.
It used to be that you paid for your distribution of materials and then they do the content for you. Now distribution's become fairly cheap. It costs to get content made.
Right.
So now we have somebody that can go into the different venues downtown, find out what's going on, write a little piece, put that online, so that people have an idea of what's happening downtown. We can distribute that through Facebook, Twitter, and the traditional media.
You're finding more of that is, more of the social media and the online, the website.
Yeah.
That's the distribution method being used in most cases now?
Well, for sure, right? You can get a message out fairly quickly through social media, and you can control the message fairly easily, so it's nice to be able to have that ability for us to be able to tell our story.
And it's up to date.
It's always up to date.
You don't have to wait until the next production to get the new information out. It's,
Exactly.
you can correct it right away. And we're noticing that. We have a nice core, in the Valley, for example, we have a nice Facebook site now with over 1,460 members. And what I'm finding is a lot of those members may not even live in Sudbury anymore, but what's happening is they're getting messages that they're then sharing and forwarding to people who actually live here.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that it's only the people that are getting your message through your Twitter and your Facebook.
Yeah.
It's all of their friends are potential
Yeah. Well,
delivery.
yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but we're in the thousands of people on our page. But then you look at the analytics of it, and you're into hundreds of thousands of people seeing those stories.
One click and you're into the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
It's so this is good, because one of the things that I'm looking at is what can the downtown Balcarron and downtown Cape Breton and downtown Rayside Belfast, what can they learn about what your group did to get together? Because I imagine you don't need as big a staff driving this when everybody is bought into it, because they're part of the business improvement
Yeah.
area.
Well, Cape Breton just recently started a business association. They're not formalized under the BIA agreement through the province, but I think they might be on that path kind of long run. Just forming an association on its own gives you the ability to have a common voice, presenting ideas, and forwarding what you want to do. A lot of what we do is we leverage our funds, right? So we pool this money together, and then we say, okay, well, streetlights are getting replaced on this road anyways. What can we do to upgrade them, right? So let's go to the city and say, you're gonna spend, 400, 500,000 on replacing these streetlights. Well, if we kick in 2 to 4, can we get these specific ones instead, and make it look a little bit nicer? Or you're putting in these planters, can we upgrade them slightly, and we'll help fund part of that. Street signage, we paid for specific street signage that went with our branding a few years ago. All of those kinds of things, right, that define the area, so that when people are coming, they can see it and put it together. A straight-on business association can easily go around to the members of the business association and say, can you kick in a few $100, we're gonna do this event. to draw some attention. And then being able to brand yourself. One of the biggest mistakes I personally feel that a lot of the outlying areas are making is constantly making the argument that we're downtown. There's a marketing confusion with that, right? If you're trying to market yourself, you know, I look at Toronto. They have, I think, 1,200 different BIAs in Toronto, and only one of them calls themselves downtown. The rest of them have come up with very unique names that go with the area that they're in,
I see.
so that then they can promote themselves easier, right? If you're gonna do a special event in Cape Real, and you wanna say downtown Cape Real, that's fine, but if you wanna call it the shops on a specific street, or, you know, this specific area, or the railway center of the community, those kind of things, well, you're gonna go further to identifying that area and being able to promote it in a strong way.
To promote the entire community.
Well, you can promote the entire community, and you can promote a section of the community. You know, you can promote sort of the core of the valley and come up with, you know, a unique name or a unique branding for it. And whether that's downtown Valley or, you know, whatever, but you wanna tie that together and have a strong message around it, so that whenever you're promoting an event, people know exactly where it is, they know all the places that are associated with it, and they can, you can make that strong connection, so when that event's not happening, people still identify that as a unique area of the city and somewhere to go.
This is good. This is more educational. It's almost like BIA 101 here. So if we're taking a look, for example, we're taking a look at Ward 5.
Mhm.
It's my ward. So we're gonna take a look at Ward 5. There's a business area in Valcarin,
Mhm.
and obviously there's a pretty extensive business area along Notre Dame
Yeah.
in Ward 5.
Mhm.
So if you were going to establish a business improvement area, it's more geographical than it is ward-based, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
I imagine, do you have more than one ward in the downtown, in your area? I think so.
Sort of have three.
Three,
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, like we've got two that are specifically in the BIA, but then, I guess Ward 11 just kinda runs the edge of it, so.
Okay. So it's, so it becomes more of a geographical area that encompasses where the businesses are, as
Yeah.
opposed to the political division.
Yeah, you want your business association to have that arm's length from the city. You're gonna wanna have a strong, communication with the city, but I'd say 80 to 90% of the time, we're dealing with the bureaucrats of the city and not the politicians.
Right.
You know, we're working on very specific projects, and by the time it gets to the politicians' hands, it's already a fairly defined project, because it's our members that put it together. And we went to the city staff and asked what was possible, what can we do under the current rules, instead of trying to get something new and special done. And then on occasion, where it makes sense and where, you know, we really think the city should be pulling their weight or adding value, that's when we'll talk to the politicians and say, you know, this project has worked in other communities, it really needs some funding, this isn't within the scope of what the city does currently, but you might really wanna take a look at this, because it's in the city's best interest, it's not just downtown.
And especially with the additional monies you're gonna put into some of these upgrades.
Yeah.
You're basically covering some of the costs for the city.
Well,
Well-
to a certain extent, on some things, like the street signage, we actually went out and full-on paid for street signage, some of it which the city already had to replace, so we saved the city money.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, when you're taking a look at trying to create this, is it a private, not-for-profit that you're operating, or is it?
It is, sort of, it's actually a very specific thing through the Ontario government, so there's different rules that you have to play by. Our organization can't own property, our organization has different kind of rules where we can't step on certain toes of the city, we can't step on certain toes of the private sector. We're there to improve the area, and we're there to represent our members. So, you know, there's definitely rules around what we can and can't do. but there's more than enough flexibility to make an area better.
You have a member of council on your board?
Yeah, we have Fabio Belli right now.
Is that something that you wanted to do, or
It
is it mandated?
Can't remember if it's mandated. I know it's something that most BIAs do, and it's something that we've
Makes
always
sense.
asked for. Having that connection to council is important. Somebody on council needs to know what's going on around our table, so if the question comes up, pretty much every new council that sits looks at the budget that comes in, they see the money that goes to the BIA, and they think that it's their money and wanna pull it back, and then we have to explain to them, no, we're actually legally allowed to ask for that money, and you never had any right to it. So,
It's how I've been living in Sudbury all my life, and you're telling me a lot of things today that I wasn't aware of. And I guess when the general public is looking at city crews replacing lights and putting in signs, and they're looking and saying, well, those signs look an awful lot better than the ones we have in our town, people don't understand that the difference between the signs we have in the rest of the city and the signs that are going in your one area might be because you're putting in the extra money to upgrade.
yeah.
And that's an important message for
Oh,
people to know.
Absolutely, and I only started on the BIA 3-4 years ago, and that's one of the messages that we're trying to get across stronger, because it's definitely one of the reasons that there's been some friction at the table. Was the city amalgamated, and the outlying areas never had any reason to look at what happened downtown or what money was being spent downtown, and there was a lot of costs associated with amalgamation that cost the entire city. We're all paying more in a lot of ways. There was things that were done in the outlying areas that were volunteer work, or that were a small contractor that had a special arrangement with the city, and when the city amalgamated, for better or worse, the city had to take it over. They didn't really have a lot of choice on it, and that upped the costs to everybody. And we're seeing it downtown, where the BIA is shouldering a higher percentage of the cost than we've ever shouldered for a lot of the projects that we do in the core.
So if, let me see if I've got this straight then. This means that if an organization, let's say in Valcarron, wanted to form their own BIA, then they need 70% of the,
Geographic area they decide.
okay, they set that area, and then they need 70% of the registered businesses in that area to
The property owners.
the property owners, or the property owners, okay.
Yeah.
70, just the business property owners though.
Yeah, you can define it that way. Yeah. You can go 70% of the property owners, 70% of the business property owners, and then you define the geography based on that.
So it's almost like a referendum.
Yeah, you have to have a vote to do it.
Is that how it's done though, through a referendum during an election, or can you have a?
No, you can do it separately, and the costs aren't massively high, because you only have, probably in Valcarron, maybe 30-40 business owners in an area that you'd want to create a BIA around, or property owners in that area. So you'd have to pull them together, and the city can arrange voting for it. They do that for several organizations. We have an election every 4 years. It's immediately following council's election for our board.
Okay.
So we're an elected board through our members, and the city manages the election for us.
So if you've got a property owner of a mall that is not a local person, then that property owner is one vote, and all of the tenants would become part of
Yeah.
that one unit? They would pay through the property owner, or would they pay into the?
So they would pay through the property owner.
Okay.
You're taxed exactly the same as you would be through your municipal taxes.
All right.
What happens is, so we decide our levy every year. Our members then vote to ratify that levy. So they say, we present it at our AGM. Our members come in, they vote, approve it. And at that point, we hand that off to the city, and the city collects it as part of their tax collection. And then they forward us our piece.
It would be interesting to get some people who were part of the founding group to talk about how difficult it was to get all of that done.
Yeah, Maureen Maloma was actually the executive director when it was formed.
Oh, really?
So that was several years ago.
Yeah.
But,
It was
yeah.
in the seventies, wasn't it?
77.
1977. I can see where this would be a fairly lengthy process to educate the
Yeah.
property owners, and especially property owners of malls, where
Mhm.
now you're basically looking at convincing your tenants to have to pay more
Mhm.
than another mall down the street, just because
Yeah.
of this extra levy. It's,
Most malls do not tend to vote to go into a BIA, pretty much just for the reason
they've
that
got their own.
that they are, you know, their own business association, so they wanna do their own promotion and do their own type of thing. And, you know, that's why a lot of malls aren't really downtown cores, right? They're,
Right.
a downtown core in this day and age isn't necessarily retail anymore. It's an amalgamation of businesses that make an area unique. And most malls, some do, some have very unique businesses, but most malls don't necessarily have that type of uniqueness. You know, strip malls might be a little bit more likely to wanna get involved, but when you have that interior, condensed area with a nice big parking lot and inside walking, they don't necessarily wanna share with other areas, right? You want your food court to do well, you want your businesses inside to do well, so you wanna be self-contained. That's just the business strategy of most malls, where you have areas that are more pedestrian friendly and people wanna walk back and forth. You need to find ways to co-brand and work together.
No, it's definitely, and you can see why an area like the downtown core of Sudbury would develop the business improvement area
Mhm.
a lot easier than an outlying area, because in most of these areas where you take a look, like I'm looking at Chelmsford and I'm looking at the Valley, you do have major malls that are owned by a landlord
Yeah.
that rents out the space.
Mhm.
And it would be an interesting challenge to try and get that 70% vote
Mhm.
to set up the BIA. But once you got that vote, everybody's part of it.
Yeah,
So even if you voted not to be in it.
if you voted no, then you're still in.
So you're still in, because you're gonna benefit from the overall marketing
Yeah.
and promotion. That's great. The events that you run in downtown Sudbury, as you were saying, a lot of what you do in downtown Sudbury benefits the entire community, because it definitely creates a flavor, creates an atmosphere,
Yeah.
and obviously then brings people into the downtown. So
Yeah.
there's a marketing element as well.
Yeah.
The more events you can have,
Mhm.
the more it seems like it's going on in Sudbury, and the more the people get to visit the downtown.
Exactly.
I guess that's something that all of the businesses buy into, and they really don't mind so many of these events going on downtown.
Yes and no, you know, it doesn't matter what you do. Some people are gonna be happy with certain things, unhappy with others.
I found that out,
Yeah, you know, you ask 100 people, you're never gonna get 100 likes on the same idea. And, you know, we always try and run our events at this point to benefit the majority of downtown, and we're really trying from this point on to develop events that integrate as many of our members as possible into the event, so that, you know, there's that benefit and that education for people that come downtown, that, you know, we have these high quality restaurants, we have these high quality places to go. One of our members started their own event last year, the Elgin Street Beer Festival, that was the Laughing Buddha Townhouse group that did that. Huge response.
And that's fine with your organization?
It's absolutely fine with our organization, and we're getting more into we'll sponsor an event, right? If you wanna put together the pieces, we'll help you with street closures and all of the expertise that we've garnered over the last 36 years that downtown's existed, or the downtown BI has existed. We've got enormous experience in putting on events. You know, we wanna make downtown the easiest place in the city to put on events for any of our members, so
I guess the city staff must cooperate quite readily because of the history that you've had, right?
Sometimes,
Okay.
yeah, you know, it's like
not hard
anything
to
else.
close streets or anything like that, it's,
There's always logistics to it, being downtown, you know, there's fire routes that run straight through the downtown, which are very real concerns. And, you know, we've gotten pretty good at working out some of those logistics, but they always come up and, standards change and, you know, what you need to do for a liquor license changes every few years. All of those things kind of modify, so we've got it down pretty good, and we're pretty good with, you know, cut and repeat, cut and repeat.
I read recently too, that there seems to be a, and I don't know if it's really that obvious a change, but it seems like there's a different type of business or clientele starting to flow into the downtown as some businesses leave, the kind of businesses are coming in seem to be more, I don't wanna say downtownish, but they seem to
They
be
are,
the kind of businesses that you would expect in a downtown. Are you seeing that?
Absolutely. You know, I can't
No, we can't.
get into detail of some of the new ones coming in, but, you know, we've got significant amount of new businesses coming in that are gonna be announced over the next few months. And, you know, some of them are restaurants, some of them are retail, but they're the type of business that you would see in popular downtowns.
It's kind of like a boutique style?
Boutique, yeah.
Like it's different, they're unique, they're...
Yeah, there's a lot of different types of retail that do well in the downtown, and it tends to be places that need smaller square footage, that, you know, promote active lifestyles, that promote, you know, sort of an upper tier customer, and that's what we're seeing want to move into the downtown. We're seeing the area around the downtown residentially, the rates continue to rise because people want to live close to the downtown now, because there is all those opportunities for higher end restaurants and things like that. You're seeing people want to live closer to entertainment because everything from drinking and driving, being able to walk home after a night at the theater is a huge benefit to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, you know, just, you go to a Wolves game on the weekend, 5 o'clock, the restaurants are packed because, you know, it's hard to find a parking space, so everybody wants to get there early. The overflow benefit that the city sees from having that arena downtown and having that many people flood the downtown on a weekend and go to all these restaurants and support them, well, you know, the city sees that come back in tax dollars, and that benefit goes right across the city.
Right. And so this trend for the new businesses coming in, like when I walk through a shopping center, I often see a lot of national and international franchise.
Yeah.
stores. When you walk downtown, you tend to see the individual owner or the owner in the store. Is there a balance between the franchises and the individual shopkeepers, or are you finding that there's more independent?
There's certain chains that have done, you know, corporate stores that have done very well in downtowns, and they're the ones that adopt a downtown feel.
Okay.
And we're just starting to see interest from those types of businesses looking at the downtown. And then, you know, in popular downtowns, the majority of businesses tend to be independent. It's just the reality of how a downtown tends to work and how a downtown customer tends to go. If you go to a coffee shop, you know, you take Old Rock, for example. I would put Old Rock's coffee and service above any of the major chain coffee stores.
Right.
They're roasting their coffee fresh. Their owners are in the store.
Just the ambiance.
Well, it's the ambience, and you have people that really care about the product and learn about the product, and they're constantly, you know, the average person on the street is never gonna put that much effort into learning about coffee as somebody whose life is coffee, right? And the people that own these shops, their life is coffee, and they know it better than anybody else. And they make really high improvements to their equipment, to the quality of their product, and that goes for most of the downtown restaurants. The restaurants bring in food fresh, they're cutting stuff every day, You know, they're making their own blends of spices and rubs and things like that, where, you know, if you go to a larger chain, you're getting the same thing that you'd get in any community across Canada.
Right.
So if you're a tourist, you know, you can go to the place that you got when you were back home, or you can try something new, and it's gonna be one of your only opportunities to do it.
And I know, I think your background is in marketing
Yeah.
yourself, and tell me if this is a fair observation, because I'm in marketing too, and it seems as if the move is getting more and more toward video marketing and video elements in marketing. And I think when you take a look at what you get from going into an independently owned store where the owners are there and you can see their passion, is you get to personalize the services or the products
Yeah.
with the actual people who are running it. And I'm seeing from a marketing point of view that more and more people are now really picking up on these 3 and 4 minute video clips where
Mhm.
you're actually seeing the owner talk about their service or their product. And it's not a Hollywood production, it's not like a commercial, it's,
Mhm.
and that's the real person.
Yeah,
Is in a shirt and it doesn't have a tie on, and
Yeah.
there's people running around the background, and he's actually talking almost like a TV interview.
Mhm.
And I know that when you walk into a place and you know that there's the owner behind the counter, you get this, I don't know, you get this feeling that you're in kind of like a special
Yeah.
atmosphere. It doesn't take away from going into a chain, because
no,
a lot of people like myself, I don't do well with change, so I'd like to know if I'm gonna go and get something at a restaurant in one town or another town, it's gonna be pretty much the same.
yeah,
But when you're going into the downtown, or into an independent store, you're experimenting.
yeah.
You're kind of like a risk taker, it's an
It's
adventure.
a different market, yeah, and, you know, it's a growing market in a lot of ways. One of the things that I love to do downtown is, you know, when you shop and live downtown a lot, you get to know the owners of all these places.
Mhm.
And quite often, I'll call the owner of a restaurant and say, you know, I've got some friends coming in from out of town, I wanna spend this much, just take care of us. And, I don't really know what's coming for the meals, and, you know, a lot of times it's the owner himself that's preparing the meals for us. And, we'll bring, you know, a 3-4 course meal at a much better rate, frankly, than I'd get, you know, dropping the same amount of money at a chain restaurant, because they know what's fresh, they know what's in season, what they're gonna get a good deal on, and they're gonna produce an amazing meal with all the best product at that particular time of year. And, every time I've ever done it, you know, everybody at the table was just blown away with the meal that got supplied. And, you know, it's a great feeling to bring some people out and do something unique like that.
Yeah, there's a surprise, it's part of the experience.
Well, it's like going to somebody's house almost, right? You don't know what they're gonna make for dinner for you that night, but you know it's gonna be good quality because they're the good cook. And, you know, these are great chefs and do some amazing stuff.
That's really good. We're in an election year.
Mm-hmm.
Any major issues that your organization would like to see, or that you're hearing even on the street, that people running for council are gonna have to keep in mind?
Well, downtown is a bit of a unique area, right? And like I said, it's different than a mall, it's different than a lot of those other places, and it is very pedestrian focused. So, you know, the better you can make the atmosphere for a pedestrian on the street, the better most of our shops are gonna do downtown. We have about 9,000 people that work downtown.
9,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the better you can make that experience when they leave their office to explore the streets downtown, the more the businesses that are around that area are gonna make, and the stronger that business community will be. As soon as somebody gets into their vehicle, we've lost them. It doesn't make sense to drive from spot to spot to spot downtown. We need people, once they've parked, to then use the downtown and feel comfortable walking the streets, have clean streets and, you know, well-maintained areas. And the revenue that the city will see back from that will be much more than the output on keeping the streets clean.
So I guess during the winter time when we've got, kind of snow we've been getting, I guess that's when.
Well, we got our
that's where the
snowbanks,
problems,
oops, we got our snowbanks cleared twice, and that's what downtown gets right now, over the course of a year. So we get one kind of before Christmas and one after.
Oh, really?
depending on-
It doesn't get clean after every storm? No?
They plow the streets,
Right.
but as far as the sidewalks and the snowbanks go, you know, it's kinda up to the business owner to shovel a hole. And, which is okay, but, you know, there's a lot of snow to be removed and there's nowhere to put it in a downtown.
And you got your parking meters, people are crawling over snowbanks, it's, so
Yeah.
the business owners take care of that then. If you see it's nicely cleared, in many cases, the business owners have cleared out the front of there.
Quite often, yeah. So, which is difficult because there's nowhere to put the snow, right?
Oh.
You're just making the snowbank beside it taller because you can't,
Blowtorch to melt it, I guess.
yeah. We have no backyards, we have no extra area to deal with that kind of stuff. It's the current structure of any downtown is, it's very compact and the buildings take up 100% of their property.
I guess that's something that, should be on the mind of a lot of councillors, because even in the outlying areas, the cleaning of the snowbanks to allow people to get from their car into, across the sidewalk, because they're not all in malls.
Yeah.
Quite often people do have to park on streets to.
Well, even for transit, right? You see.
Right, transit.
I've helped a couple people over snowbanks getting off a bus because you have an elderly person trying to get off a bus and there's nowhere for the bus to let them off and they've got to go to an appointment at a medical clinic or things like that, you know.
Are you fairly happy with the transit arrangement in downtown? Like everything kind of comes to the center?
There's a lot of room to improve that.
Yeah.
I don't think necessarily everything coming in the center is the best for the city or the downtown. You know, we spend a lot of money on a transit depot downtown, but, you know, if we didn't have a transit depot, that would probably be 5 or 6 extra buses on the road, on some of the main routes. So
Never thought of it like that. It's true.
it's an enormous cost, right? You've got 2 or 3 security guards there all day while it's operating. You've got the heat, you've got the building maintenance. You know, you're looking at several $100,000 a year to just maintain that building. And it's on the busiest corner in the city. You know, and that's the representation, probably, I'd say, 40 to 50% of the city have of downtown right now is that specific corner. And it's not representative of the rest of the downtown. It's a very unique corner and it's probably, you know, the roughest area in the downtown right now. Other downtowns have looked at bus depots and have said, you know, they don't make sense. The cost to, or the other cities, I mean, the cost to maintain it versus the service that, the other services that you could provide instead of that. Many cities just do loops of their main streets so that
So you don't need a transfer location or a transfer spot?
Well, it depends on the frequency of buses, right? If you have buses coming every 5-10 minutes on your major routes, you don't necessarily need a transfer spot. If you do a transfer spot, or if you do your transfers in specific areas, much like we used to have downtown where they were just on the street, coffee shops, businesses, you know, benefit quite strongly by that because, you know, the 50 people that are getting on the bus from downtown to connect somewhere else do quite well. And, you know, I was driving to New Sudbury the other day and 7 buses passed me on the Kingsway all at the same time. And they were all going down the Kingsway from downtown because they were servicing, you know, Garson and all of these other areas. Well, that's a pretty big stretch of road to be duplicating with buses when, you know, you could have one bus meeting all of those other buses at one specific point in New Sudbury, picking up and dropping off instead of duplicating that route.
Good point.
You know, there's a lot of buses to be running down the same road. And you look at the amount of buses that run the Kingsway, Notre Dame, LaSalle, Regent Street, Paris Street, You know, if that was one big loop that did a figure eight of Sudbury, you could easily have a bus going every 5 minutes on those areas, and then feeder buses feeding the outlying areas from, you know, appropriate points. And as long as those buses are timed to meet up fairly close, you know, you're gonna have less outside waiting time than you would currently anyways.
Good point. You mentioned too about a rough area
Mhm.
downtown. There's a perception that the downtown's not the safest place to be, and yet it's interesting. I saw a couple Facebook posts today about, you know, one person had mentioned that they felt it wasn't safe down, and another person said that they live down there and they have no problem walking around at night. How do you get this message out that downtown really isn't, you're not risking your life when you go downtown? Is that just?
It's 100% a perception issue. You know, we get the stats from the police. We meet with the police on a regular basis about safety, security issues. And actually, it's one of the safest places in the city, stats-wise. So, you know, it is a perception issue. When they do get calls at the city for calls for service, the majority of the calls for service are either an intoxicated person or, you know, something along those lines. Somebody doesn't feel safe because somebody that's on the street, and it tends to be the same specific people. So you'll get 12 calls for service for one intoxicated person. So those numbers are actually even skewed higher than they should be because of the density of downtown.
Okay.
About 100 people on the street instead of, you know, an intoxicated person out in another area of the city where nobody will see them or only one person would see them. You know, in the downtown area, you'll have 100 people see them, 6 will call. So those numbers tend to be skewed, and that's according to the police. So, you know, it is an issue, but if you took a count in any other downtown, I think you'd see basically the same numbers of those kinds of issues. And those are social issues, panhandlers and things like that, and things that we need to deal with. But at the same time, you know, that's something the city needs to deal with as a whole.
They're not
You know.
necessarily safety issues.
No,
Social
it's a feeling of safety,
Right.
right? And, you know, it's something people don't like to see, but at the same time, it's something that the city as a whole needs to deal with. If we got rid of it downtown, that would just mean that we're moving the problem at this point.
Someplace else.
And, you know, we saw that with, I've lived downtown for 16, 17 years now. And I remember when I first moved downtown, prostitution was a big problem downtown. It doesn't really exist downtown anymore because of the volume of people. Downtown's really come a long way in those 16 years. And it started with restaurants and bars. And it was the bars that started it. And it was university students coming downtown. And they really rejuvenated the nightlife downtown. On a Saturday night, downtown Sudbury, it's not uncommon 6,000 to 7,000 people to be on the street. And that's at 2 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, between 9 and 2, you have all these university and college students, young adults that flooding the downtown. Well, if you were a John picking up a prostitute, it was no longer the most comfortable place to pick up a prostitute. You know, it's not something you want to do with a lot of people around. So what ended up happening was that moved out into the residential areas around downtown, which isn't the best case scenario otherwise, right? And the more pressure that is put on panhandlers and things downtown, we're already seeing New Sudbury, South End. You drive into some of the mall areas and there's people on the street looking for money there, right? Police pressure and things like that. You know, while it might solve our problem downtown, it's only moving that issue. It's a social problem that
Right.
just needs to be dealt with.
Right, it's a whole bigger issue.
Yeah.
Right. Anything we missed or we haven't talked about the downtown that you think people should know if we're looking at this as an education-based interview? I learned an awful lot. I think it's great, and I see the potential for other areas in the city
Mhm.
and in the outlying area to take a little bit, I guess, more of a combined and unified approach to promoting their area. And I don't think that we have to look at it as being, if the outlying areas can market their particular business core better, then it's gonna take away from the downtown, because you're kind of looking at two different
Yeah.
types of markets, aren't you?
Somewhat, right? Like, the more you develop kind of that downtown feel in other areas, somebody from the Valley, Cape Real, any of the outlying areas, the chance that they're gonna come downtown on a daily basis is nil.
Right.
Right? That never was the case, ever. And when downtown was at its peak, you know, Sudbury was its market, and then, you know, there was strong downtown cores in all of the outlying areas, and they were their own townships, and, you know, downtown Sudbury
So downtown
got,
Sudbury was like the mall, maybe
Yeah.
in an outside community.
yeah, but people would come down, you know, once a month, or,
Right.
you know, and, you know,
Special
that's,
trip into town.
and when you develop people that, see the benefits of a local restaurant, or see the benefits of, you know, that uniqueness, and the benefit that somebody local can do above what corporate can do, you're just creating a new tourist for downtown from some of those outlying areas.
I think that's a good point, a good way of
Right.
putting it. Every now and then, you're gonna wanna get away from the fast food and go into an independent restaurant.
Yeah, so, and that's the way we look at it, the stronger we can make, you know, downtown Karen, downtown Caperville, downtown Hamburg, downtown Coppercliff, the better it is for us, because we're gonna get that person that goes downtown, that would go downtown once a month, or, you know, the person that would go to a local restaurant, you know, once a year, let's try and go twice a year, or
Get them in
3
and out.
times a year, right? And go a little bit more, and get the people that live kind of in the core of the city coming on more of a weekly basis instead of a monthly basis. And that's our goal at this point, right? In the past, downtown's really had this concern of trying to get everybody to come downtown on a regular basis. That's just not the reality, right? It's never been the reality, it never will be the reality. We're not the only downtown for the city, we're not the only center for the city. And it's healthy for other cores. We've gone to the Railway Museum in Cabriola a couple times and brought family out there over the last few years as a tourist, right? It's a long way to go from downtown for us, and it's not something we're gonna do on a regular basis. But, you know, the volume that downtown Cabriola needs to be successful isn't all of Sudbury. It
Right.
needs, you know, a good chunk of Cabriola with some tourism from the rest of the city, when they're doing special events, or when they're doing something unique. And the same thing goes for the rest of the city. Find what you do unique, find what separates you from the average, right? One thing I tell my clients all the time, never compete on what you lose, compete on what you win. And we have
Go for your strengths.
tons that we win on downtown, tons that the rest of the city can't offer.
Right.
And that's what we're competing on now, and, you know, that's what we've been competing on for the last 10 years. And you look at the strides that downtown's made, we've had so many restaurants open up that are, you know, highly sought after in the city, that you can't get a reservation, you know, night of or weekend of. We've seen Worley Parsons, Hatch, SNC Lavalin, 3 of the biggest engineering firms in the world move into the downtown and want to be downtown because that's where their employees want to be. We're seeing interest from other mining supply sector in wanting to move downtown, because if they want to attract people making, you know, 400,000 or 500,000 plus, those guys want somewhere to spend their money, and they want somewhere to go out for dinner and take clients for lunch and those types of things. You know, as far as downtown Sudbury goes, we're the only place that's gonna get that kind of cluster of office, right? That's just not a reality for anywhere else in the city. If Sudbury wants to be the capital of Northern Ontario and you know, present it that way, and you know, stop saying that we're just a mining town and be something more, you need a strong downtown. You need that core. You look at what's happened in St. John's and in Calgary and, you know, even Hamilton or London, a lot of those places, it wasn't that long ago, they were really the size of Sudbury. And, you know, they found a niche, and they found something that was happening around them. And in Sudbury, you know, mining is, I don't care what you say, it's still huge. You know, you just opened a new mine. Our mining supply sector is unreal. I do work for mining supply guys. We go down to Vegas, and people see my badge from Sudbury, and I've got people from all over the world that want to talk to me because, you know, they want connections into our city. And, you know, if we can't sell that, if we can't sell what's unique about Sudbury, we're in trouble. And it's definitely something that we do better than anywhere else in the world. And a strong downtown will make us that center. You need the white collar piece of that to go with the blue collar. You need the engineers, you need the people that are gonna invent new machinery or design things, or just sell it. And you know, you want those office towers that somebody wants to have, like Hatch, like SNC Lavalin, like Worley Parsons. They wanted a nice key building downtown that they could put their sign on, so when everybody drives through town, they see that sign and they know that name. More people in this city knew Hatch's name before they knew what Hatch did. And because they had, you know, a key piece of real estate downtown with a big sign on it. And Hatch is doing dynamite. They're half that mall now. And, you know, the other companies have seen that and they recognize that. And the more we can promote Sudbury and the more we can promote downtown as the core for that style of business, the better we all do.
The focus then is not necessarily on residential development downtown.
We need residential, absolutely. Don't get me wrong, we absolutely need residential downtown. There's incentives that need to be made for that to happen. Flat out, the cost to the builder, to the developer, is much higher to do it downtown, even with development charges waived. There's the realities of dealing with old buildings and having to renew old infrastructure. End of the day, you fill those buildings up, the tax revenue that the city's gonna see is gonna far outweigh any kind of incentive that you can give the builder. If you were to take the taxes off for a new build or a new renovation downtown for a couple of years, there's no loss to the city. That was revenue they were not getting, right? If you have vacant space and somebody renovates it and puts in a new building, the city is not losing any money. There's no additional cost to the city. The infrastructure's there. The infrastructure's already built. The service is already there. We have urban level of policing. We have urban level of fire. None of that needs to increase. So if you fill up all of the places downtown by putting some incentives in, there's no increase to cost for the city. If there is, it's extremely minimal. But now you've got tax revenue coming in forever. So you go from the exact same amount of cost and you're gonna increase your revenue for the entire city.
Sounds like a pretty easy economics.
It's easy economics, but it's been a hard sell. You know, since amalgamation, it's been very difficult. And you know, I completely understand it. If you live in the outlying areas, there's no doubt that it feels like you're getting less service for more money. The cost of service is higher because now you're part of a municipality that has different insurance rates it needs to pay. It has a unionized workforce that, you know, probably gets paid more. It has unionized deals that say, you know, if you've got a park, you need city staff to maintain that, where in the past you could have had a volunteer group come in and do the gardening. All of those things are now, you have to pay urban rates for. The city really needs to go back to the province and say, hey, listen, we need to rework this deal. You know, we can't necessarily provide urban services into an outlying area that doesn't necessarily want them and charge them an urban rate because they're not an urban community. And, you know,
That's a good point.
you know, amalgamation's a reality, it's not going away, but there's nothing to say that we can't go back to the province and say,
Rework
let's
the
look at the municipal act, and you made exceptions for Toronto. We're an exceptional city. We're, you
Has
know,
that ever been done? Has that ever
not
been
to my
tried?
knowledge.
Makes sense. especially since they did it for Toronto.
Toronto has the City of Toronto Act, and
That's true.
they've got specific things that they can do, because they're a very unique.
And we are unique
area.
because I think we're the last amalgamated city.
We're the last amalgamated city, and you know, the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, that came out because there was serious talk about separating Northern Ontario. And they said, you know what, Northern Ontario is unique, and we need to develop it, and we need, you know, some of the money that's coming from the mines and from all those areas to go back to Northern Ontario and develop those businesses. Because if those cities fail, that's huge revenue that the province loses. And Northern Ontario needs a core, and Sudbury's gotta be that core.
Oh, yeah.
We're the center of it, all the roads run through us, and you know, we're the biggest city, and we've got the strongest industry. For us not to be going to the province and saying we're unique, and we need a unique deal, to me, you know, is silly.
No, and you know, it makes sense. We were talking about the next 4 years being a real transition period and a turning point, and we've got a new rebranding for downtown, and you're right, maybe it's time to say, well, let's take a look at this a little closer. Let's not just put Band-Aids, let's take a look at what the long-term solution's gonna be, and just how easy is it to do.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a lot easier than we think it is, just a matter of re-looking at the entire process.
A lot of the fighting in the city just flat out comes from, we were given a new deal, and the new deal's hard to work. And, you know, the outlying area feels like it's paying more, and they are, and they're getting different services for it. And, you know, they're getting some improved ones that you don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis with fire and things like that. And you're seeing some of the ones that touch people on a regular basis being cut, mostly on the leisure side, because now you have to pay urban rates for it. And you know, that's gonna affect the bills at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And the city's seeing the same thing. You know, we're paying more taxes and we're getting less service because, you know, some of our money's going out to the outlying areas to serve these urban services that they don't necessarily want or need, right? And it costs everybody more at the end of the day. And I think there's ways to make amalgamation work, but you need to get better at a one-size-fits-all solution. You need to realize that there is a difference between the core and the outlying areas, and that the service levels need to be different, and, you know, probably the taxation to go along with it.
No, good point, excellent point. Perhaps that's a good point to wrap it up on. So you can't think of anything else that we've really missed? That's good. We've covered an awful lot of ground. Jeff MacIntyre, Chair of the Downtown Sudbury Board. It's very interesting what we've discovered. I know that people who are listening, if you just came in halfway through the interview, we do have a video recording of our interview, and I am gonna post it. It's gonna be posted on the learningclinic.ca, and I'll make sure I send it out to a few of the Facebook distribution areas. And obviously, if you know, downtown Sudbury wants to use it as part of their own website, feel free. It'll be put up on YouTube, so it's easy to link to. And it's been very informative for me. And I've lived here all my life, and I found some things today that I didn't know. And I think now it's a matter of getting that message out and communicating with the public so that the public understands more about what is behind the downtown Sudbury, and why it might seem as if there's more going into downtown Sudbury, but it's mainly being driven by the people who own property and who run businesses downtown. So it's been very informative. So thanks for spending time coming in, Jeff. It's a pleasure. I'm hoping that we can get you in, and maybe get Maureen in one of these times and talk a little bit about history, whether it's in the next few months or next year. But I think it's always good to get in and share some of these some of these ideas so that everybody understands where we're all coming from. So I'm your host, Bob Kirwan. You've been listening to the Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM, and we've had Jeff MacIntyre this afternoon from downtown Sudbury. Thanks, Jeff, and stay tuned and enjoy the music, and I should be back momentarily.